So if you heard of Stunlock Studios, then you've probably heard of the arena brawler known as Battlerite. It was small, niche, and had an extremely dedicated fan base, and it left kind of a bit of a hole in everyone's hearts when it finally shut down. The company unfortunately struggled to generate a player base. It went to a free-to-play model and even tried to create a battle royale, and unfortunately things just didn't quite work out. And for a lot of people, they thought that was the end of Stunlock Studios, until that is about the announcement of V Rising. So the best way I can describe V Rising is kind of a pivot away from arena brawlers and more into a PvE world, while still trying to capture the magic that made Battlerite so good. So we've got two things to go through. One is all the information that we do currently know in the game, and then the next is the trailer, and we've got lots to extract from there. So we'll go through what we know first, and then we'll move on to the trailer. So essentially the plot is you're a vampire, you wake up after a great big long sleep and you find that all your strength has been taken away, you've got no castle, and you have to rebuild in the human world. The game is an open world experience. Now currently I don't know if that means that there is one server and you have loads of vampires on it and you all battle each other and you do PvE and it's an MMORPG, or you just set up a personal server and you invite your friends and they all build vampire castles on there and you have very separate pods all over the place. I am hoping that it is more around the first model, because I can't imagine the game doing too well if it is just you setting up games between your friends versus like an open sprawling world. Next up, there is a sunlight system in this game which kind of comes with the territory of vampires. Basically, if you go into the day and you're in the sun, then you will take damage, and if you're in the night, then you have more an advantage to prey on your various victims. Part of the core mechanic is that you have a castle. Now this acts as your whole progression system. At the moment, I am going to speculate on a few things, but what we do know is that you gather resources, then you build your castle, you upgrade, you get better tech. I'm presuming that comes with better tech is that you can build more weapons, you can get newer abilities, and you can just become a generally more powerful vampire. In terms of multiplayer, this isn't just a single player experience. You've also got the opportunity to join up with other vampires and do PvE content, and you've also got the opportunity to join up and do PvP content. In terms of PvP content, there's still much to be answered. I don't know if you go off and invade someone else's castle and destroy it, that's it, you've got to rebuild from the beginning, similar to how those mobile games work. Or it's like you go in, you attack and you kill each other and you get some XP and some rewards for doing so. Personally, I don't know anyone who enjoys the super hardcore PvP systems where you can, if you die, you get all your inventory stolen, you have to start again. It is a very niche community, but until we know more, we can just speculate and wonder. And lastly, and we'll extract this from the trailer, that there are multiple weapons, there are multiple abilities, so I guess you can set up your vampire how you want to do it. There are lots of skill shots which kind of syncs with the whole Stunlock MO. And by extension, there isn't a class system, it is just you tailor the vampire to how you want to play, which does sound really cool on paper. Alright, let's just get knee deep into the whole trailer because there's lots to talk about here. So instantly, those who've played Battlerite for a long time will recognise the fact that this is a recycling of the engine, or at least they are using the engine, they've probably built on it and extended it and done all sorts of funky stuff with it. You can tell this because there are lots of abilities from the characters that you've probably seen in Battlerite. For example, there's lots of abilities. I've seen things that have been extracted from Thorn. I've also seen abilities similar to Rue Khan into like his scything ability. I've also seen jumps that look like they've been taken from Reagan. And for all those really keen-eyed people, you'll also spot some abilities that have been recolored from Jamila. There's a lot of thematic presence on this. They've really kind of captured the whole vampire elements to it. There's also looked to be a lot of customization in your castle. You can put statues and various bits and pieces all over the place. I don't know where the upgrading ends and the cosmetic starts, but it looks like you can tailor things in various directions that you want to go. There's also a mount that you use to travel around the map. This says to me that the maps are going to be large enough that you actually need some mechanism to get there, and also means that we'll probably see some customization elements in that. One of the things that Stunlock were always good at is giving skins for various characters and abilities and making things look more shiny than they start with. Another thing about the horse is that you can also do mounted combat, so you can use your melee weapon as you go along to hit the enemies. Now, one of the things I'm sure a lot of people want to know about is the combat and the abilities. There looks to be a whole plethora of them. I'm going to outline some of them, but go through the trailer and have a look yourself, and I have no doubt that there will be more there as well. So in the order that I've actually seen them, so there has already been a stealth ability, so you can go invisible and attack your enemies, and I guess use that in the PvP as well. There is also a leap ability and a kind of scythe cone attack in front of you. I don't know if these are the generic starting abilities or you have to tailor each and every single one of these. There's also an ability that you use to drain the blood of your opponent, and it looks like eat them at the end. Kind of comes with the territory again with being a vampire, but maybe there are different siphoning abilities, I'm not sure. But in terms of playstyle and weaponry, there are definitely multiple weapons. So I've seen a mace being used quite heavily throughout the trailer, and I've also seen a crossbow that you can use to do ranged abilities with. And this was something that Stunlock have always been good with. They've, been able to make the melee abilities and the ranged abilities quite different and diverse from each other. I'm sure a lot of people who play Battlerite will be very familiar with Jade and her playstyle and saw how powerful she could be with her ranged abilities. The next mobility ability that I really liked and saw was an ice frog bat leap thing. So you turned into a big blue bat and he jumps up and hops onto his opponent, and when you land, spikes shoot out the ground. So I guess it's got like a slow to it perhaps, or it freezes the enemies, or it does AoE, or maybe a combination of all the three. There is also a page straight out the book of the Diablo Barbarian, because there's a cyclone ability where you can zoom around and swing your weapon and do multiple damage to the enemies around you. And again, mentioning teleportation, I've seen an ability that allows you to blink a certain direction and then use your ranged abilities to poke away at the enemy still. Now, the next ability I saw was a defensive ability. It looks like there are some sort of shields that you can put up. So in the video, the guy was walking forward, he had a big shield in front of him, and they were doing ranged attacks on them and using it to kind of get that zoning on the enemy. Again, talking about Jamila again, I've seen her teleportation ability where she goes in, she does her scythes and also throws out her spinning circles, which look like a really cool ability to have into the mix. There weren't too many defensive abilities. The only one I saw was a shield. I haven't seen any kind of like Shifu style abilities which are react on hit, but I won't be surprised if we saw a few of those in there. Now, in terms of PvE, the dungeons did look kind of cool. I've seen a couple of big bosses. There was one naturist style druid that it looked big enough to be a boss, and I also saw one of the human bosses as well. He's a big knight with a two-handed mace and lots of vampires fighting him, and I guess that's part of the whole progression system, and you harvest those to get more items and loot from them. Now, interestingly enough, I've seen that you can build your castle, and it looks like it's not set in one locale, so I'm guessing you choose the placement of it because you're literally building all the walls for it and setting it in place. So maybe that gives you the opportunity to build vampire clans, and you can build all your various castles next to each other and use them as some sort of defensive position, or maybe you'll just have like one zone of the map where you build your castle and you go from there. Now, in terms of all the meaty content extracting from the trailer, that is pretty much it. But my understanding and what I'm getting from this game is, just to say, again, to iterate, the direction that they're going with. So you've got all the elements of the arena fighting that are really, really good, but you've also got this progressive PvE layer behind it, which allows you to go off and play the game if you aren't interested in PvP, which in turn opens up them to a whole new market. Because one of the downsides to Battlerite was the fact that if you came in as a new player, there was this kind of skill bar that you had to reach before you really appreciated the game. And getting there sometimes just was a miserable experience because, like all these kind of niche high skill fighter games, the community is usually quite small, and by in turn you'll just end up fighting people who have played the game for a fair few years. It just isn't a pleasant experience. No one goes, oh yeah, I'm going to not enjoy the game for at least a good 30 hours so that I can then enjoy the game. Anyway, so that's all I'm going to talk about for V-Rising for now. I'll give you more details when I know more. I'm super excited for this. I wish Stunlock Studios all the best, and I hope this one does take off this time. But for now, everyone have a great day. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Did you play Battlerite? What do you think of this? Do you think it's going to do well? I'll be back with more news and reviews soon. But yeah, have a great day.